All right, so welcome to day two. And before we begin, let us, in the message box, type the first four words you see. And it's thought that the first four words that you see will be the first four words that describe you. So, in the response box, give me the first four words that describe you. And today we are continuing our study of contemporary world literature. Um, we're going to review the plot of Swaddling Clothes, which you guys should have um, read the video because you can't read the video. Hello, she did the video reading yesterday. Um, we're going to look at two characteristics of contemporary literature in Swaddling Clothes, and as far as the gender roles and the impact of westernization. So, first question, what did Toshiko's husband tell his friends? Is it that A, how he almost caught a giant fish, B, how he and his wife had a big fight, or C, how the nurse gave birth in his sitting room? So use the tools on the side and then click continue. Next, how did Toshiko feel about the doctor who helped her nurse give birth? A, grateful since he was so kind to the baby. B, angry since he carelessly wrapped the baby in newspapers. Or C, frightened since he had threatened her and the nurse. So choose your answer and then click continue. Finally, when Toshiko imagines the baby's future, she sees what? A life of pain and suffering. B, a life of ease and wealth. Or C, no life at all since the baby died. Choose your answer and then click continue. All right, so for this lesson, we're going to take a look at a few characteristics of contemporary literature that you might be able to use in your final project. Of course, the more characteristics there are, there are definitely more in this story than just these two. If you find some other ones, you are welcome to use those as well. So first, we're going to start with gender roles because that's what we did with the poem Eve to Her Daughters. So this is taken right from your handout. The focus on new and emerging morality and values, specifically the roles of men and women and minorities in society and family. So those are contemporary characteristics right from the handout that's located in your course. And so in your project, you might explain how Toshiko and the men in the story react very differently to the incident. So her husband states, well, I didn't waste any time. I rescued our good rug from the floor and spread a blanket for her to lie on. The whole time the girl was yelling like a stuck pig, but our sitting room was a pretty shambles. So, what is Toshiko's husband concerned about while the nurse is giving birth? So, type it in the response box there. What's the what's Toshiko's husband mainly concerned with? And then once you type your answer, click continue. Okay, and then finally, how would you describe his feelings toward the incident? So now that we know what his concerns are, how do those concerns tell us how he feels? Is he disgusted? Is he angry? Or is he concerned? And then once you choose your answer, click continue. He's definitely disgusted, I would say. He's not definitely not very concerned, and I wouldn't say he was angry because we don't get rage from him here, but he, I don't know, he doesn't take it very seriously, and that kind of is annoying. All right, so um Toshiko then describes the doctor's actions, as if to emphasize his scorn for his mother who had given birth to a bastard under such sordid conditions. He had told his assistant to wrap the baby in some loose newspapers rather than proper swaddling. This callous treatment of the newborn child had offended Toshiko. So, what does the doctor do that offends Toshiko? So, type your answer in the response box and click continue. And so, how would you describe the doctor's feelings toward the incident? Is the doctor disgusted, angry, or concerned? So, choose your answer and then click continue. So, let's see, let's break this down here. So, the doctor's feelings toward the incident. Well, it says scorn. Scorn is a big clue. So, yeah, he's angry. Like, he's having some flashbacks or pulling his own mess into what's happening here. So anger is correct. And so this callous treatment of the newborn child had offended Toshiko. She had fetched a brand new piece of flannel from her cupboard and, having swaddled the baby in it, had laid him carefully in an armchair. So, what is Toshiko concerned about after the nurse gives birth? So, type your answer in the response box and then click continue. And how would you describe Toshiko's feelings toward the incident? Is she disgusted, angry, or concerned based off of her actions? Select your answer and then click continue. So, I would say she's definitely concerned, and we know that because of her going to get that brand new piece of flannel from the cupboard and swaddling him and then laying him carefully in the armchair. So these three people have very different reactions to this birth. So in your project, you may also decide to discuss how Toshiko's reaction is very feminine, while her husband's reaction is very masculine. Going back to our original lesson, um, of how certain uh, frames of thinking are considered masculine and how some are considered feminine. So, based on your reading, with whom is the reader supposed to sympathize with? Meaning, whose side are we on? Are we on the side of the men or are we on the side of Toshiko? So, choose your answer and then click continue. Yes, you definitely should be Team Toshiko because the men suck in this story. So we are supposed to sympathize with Toshiko. So in thinking or knowing that, what might the author be saying about the feminine perspective or approach to life? So what do you think um, the author is saying about the feminine perspective, or how, how we should approach life based on Toshiko? And so type your answer in the response box and then click continue. So I think, yeah, that we should be very concerned and empathetic and a little more compassionate, maybe. Um, I don't know that we should react to life the way that the guys react to life in this story. So we're also going to take a look at now at westernization, the impact of westernization. So from your handout, it says, that there's a fluctuating truth or reality or perspective, now invites new voices into the Western canon of literature, meaning we're now seeing women and non-white authors in the contemporary realm. And there's also this struggle to retain individuality or cultural identity in an increasingly Western world. So getting away from those cultural traditions. For our contemporary writers, that wasn't necessarily a good thing. Um, More voices, definitely good thing. But the fact that this this struggle to like remain true to who you are culturally, um, our Western, our I'm sorry, our contemporary writers struggled with this quite a bit. So you might want to talk about the impact of westernization by comparing Toshiko to her husband. So, first, understanding that Japanese culture values quiet, restraint, and beauty, and this way of life is slowly fading away. Where do we see symbols of traditional Japanese world in the text? So, give me an example in the response box in this section here where we see traditional Japanese values. So it says, Toshiko had been oversensitive since girlhood. That was her nature. As the result of constant worrying, she never put on weight, and now, an adult woman, she looked more like a transparent picture than a creature of flesh and blood. Her delicacy of spirit was evident to her most casual acquaintance. So what are some pieces of evidence there that mirror those traditional Japanese values of quiet restraint and beauty? So type your answer and then click continue. So you might have typed the oversensitivity, the constant worry, she never put on weight, she's very transparent, delicate. Good. So now we understand that the Western culture is materialistic. It's fast. It's loud. It's the complete opposite of Japanese culture. So underline these symbols of the Western world in this part of the text. Well, not underline, but type in the response box. Earlier that evening, when she had joined her husband at a nightclub, she had been shocked to find him entertaining friends with an account of the incident. Sitting there in his American style suit, puffing at a cigarette, he had seemed to her almost a stranger. It's a fantastic story, he was saying, gesturing flamboyantly as if in an attempt to outweigh the attractions of the dance band. So, what's here that indicates Western culture? The fast, loud, materialistic, westernized world. So, give me an example or two in the response box and then click continue. So, this nightclub, he's like telling this story, which I would think is rather private, but not to him because he's just yakking away. He's got this American style suit. He's puffing on this cigarette. Um, he's gesturing flamboyantly. There's this dance band. Yeah. So we've definitely gone wild, wild west here. uh, which is completely opposite to what we see with Toshiko, who represents the traditional um, moral, cultural way of the Japanese. Whereas her husband is the Western world creeping in. So there's some more symbols here of the Western world. So they left the nightclub, and Toshiko stepped into the taxi that her husband called for her. Take this lady to Ushigon, he told the driver, and shut the door from the outside. Toshiko gazed through the window at her husband's smiling face and noticed his strong white teeth. Then she leaned back in the seat, oppressed by the knowledge that their life together was in some way too easy, too painless. It would have been difficult for her to put her thoughts into words. Through the rear window of the taxi, she took a last look at her husband. He was striding along the street toward his Nash car, and soon the back of his rather garish tweed coat had blended with figures of the passers-by. So more symbols of the westernized world. Again, this nightclub. Um, he's got the strong white teeth. Um, let's see. He's got this Nash car and this garish tweed coat. So if Toshiko symbolizes tradition and Japanese culture, and her husband symbolizes the invading Western world, what is the author's point? What is Mishima saying about the westernization of Japan? Is he saying that it's all good, or is he saying it's terrible? Choose your answer and then click continue. So if this awful man represents Western culture, he's awful. So it's terrible. It's pretty horrid. So now let's take a look at the end of our story. Jump the gun. So what attracts her? It is, what is the color? The whiteness. The whiteness of the papers that attracts her attention. And that is not by accident. Westernization typically was felt to be whiteness. The idea, this Eurocentric um, view of how the world should be. So our author, that is totally intentional there. As far as the coloring that she used. So Toshiko ventures into the heart of a Japanese park and finds the scary man covered in whiteness. The man grabs her, and the audience is left with the impression that the next few moments of Toshiko's life are very violent. So if the man on the bench represents the impact of westernization of Japan, what is the author saying about this idea? Based on the ending of the story, what is the main idea here? Is it A, that westernization brings violence to Japan? B, westernization is obliterating or destroying Japanese culture? Or C, we should think carefully about what the impact of westernization is. So choose your answer and then click continue. All right. So if you said B, I would agree with B. A, definitely, I see how you would get there. But B, the fact that if the man on the bench represents the impact of westernization and it grabs Toshiko, it's obliterating, it's impacting, it's destroying Japanese culture. And remember, destruction is one of our big ideas from this unit, and how men view it, how women view it, how children view it. All right, so your homework is to review the story, Swaddling Clothes, and the slides from yesterday or the story from yesterday. I will see you back here tomorrow for your next lesson. See air quotes. Have a great day and toodaloo.